Welcome to our August 6th meeting of the Rotary Toronto Eglinton Rotary Club. Meeting here at the Toronto Lawn Tennis Club. Do I have the attendance list?
Oh, yes, you do.
Yep, great.
We have
Oh, wait a
guests.
minute, no, I wrapped the money in.
We have 5 guests.
5 guests?
We have 4 guests.
Okay.
Well, I haven't seen the
Just
5th.
give me
The
the.
5th is the speaker, I guess.
So we're happy to have, how many members? 19 members and 4 guests. The guests who've come with the Rotary member, I'd like the Rotary member to introduce those guests now, and if you haven't, if you could just introduce yourself. So who's our first guest, or somebody who's hosting the guest?
Lars is here with his wife.
Okay.
As we have said, the district every year gives one graduate scholarship, and it's funded by the Rotary Foundation. And each student who applies for that scholarship needs to have a Rotary connection. We have organized it this way in the district that you apply to the district and they find the club that wants to be connected or whatever.
Yes.
We are fortunate that the student we got to be in touch with also became the graduate. So Dylan here, who's participated in a few of the Zoom meetings and the farmers market, please note that, is heading off to Oxford. But he has a fantastically interesting career already. And Dylan, maybe you can
Actually, Dylan, are you staying around for a full meeting? Or
Yeah, I'll be around.
Good, so I'm gonna give you some time later after our main presentation. We hear more from Dylan then. Lars also has a guest, Carol, as well. Mark Johnson's our featured speaker. He will introduce formally when he speaks to that. And Jackie, I have you down also.
Yeah, I have a guess.
Yes.
You know, Lars left out the most important thing about Dylan. Guess what?
He's a northern grad.
Okay.
I would have brought my grade.
That's great for a teacher. Oh my God. Okay. Well, I'm very happy today to have a guest, Leif Malik. He's just done has had a very varied career. Well, recently a senior executive at the WSIB, and of course he's northern as well.
Joyce is a guest.
Oh, hello, I'm Joy Bullen, and this is my second visit.
Third
to this.
meeting.
Third meeting.
Third meeting, second visit.
The third. The second one I was on Zoom. And I'm very pleased to be here and to meet all of you, and hopefully I'm on my way to becoming a member.
Great.
Wonderful.
Wonderful.
Very good. Great to see you again, Joyce. And how do we welcome all our guests?
Okay.
Thank you. Sorry about that.
Great, we're going to go straight into our
Just swapped it.
main talk, our main
you all right?
presentation, and I'd like to call on Jackie to introduce our
You
speaker.
can do reflection first or no?
Reflection first.
Reflection.
Oh, sorry. Anna,
Anna.
reflection. Sorry about that.
So Ron asked me to make this short. Can you hear me? Doesn't
Yeah.
feel
You
like
gotta,
it.
you gotta eat it.
Almost kiss the mic.
Okay,
Of course
so
you-
we all think about happiness, but there's one feeling that's above happiness, in my opinion and most others, and that's joy. And if you think about it, how often do we experience joy? Well, much to my surprise, when I looked up service beyond self, I kept getting happiness and joy. So, Mahatma Gandhi, this is kind of it, the best way to find yourself is to lose yourself in the service of others. Arnold Schwarzenegger, the greatest reward is the enrichment and new meaning it will bring to your own life. Marie Osmond brings true happiness. Wayne Dyer, the more we give away, the more we give to us. Another fellow, I don't know who he is, but as we lose ourselves in the service of others, we discover our own lives and our happiness. But then this other one, again, I don't know who it is. Anish Reddy, anyway. We experience the ecstasy and the exaltation of our spirit. Another guy, last name Tagore, that he discovered through service beyond self that his life was joy, a life of significance. Ezra Taft Benson, if you really want to receive joy and happiness, serve others with all your heart. Lee Iacocca, and so on. Many people that I'm not going to name. Okay,
Thank you.
Well, thank you very much, Ron. It's my pleasure today to introduce Mark Johnson, who's going to talk to us about the importance of saving our history. The importance of saving our history. In response to the removal of Sir John A. Macdonald from our public spaces, Mark Johnson founded Save Our History, a nonpartisan grassroots advocacy group that is dedicated to preserving and celebrating our rich Canadian heritage by protecting our historical statues and school names. This spring, Save Our History successfully persuaded the Ontario government to preserve the name of Macdonald, Dundas, and Ryerson on schools in Toronto and across Ontario. It is now campaigning to restore the statues of Sir John A. Macdonald that have been taken down across Canada in recent years. Mark is the general counsel of a pension fund and has worked in both the public and private sector in his 25-year career. Raised in Scarborough, he ran for Parliament in 2021 federal election, and his columns have been published in major outlets. And he will tell you how you can contact him after the meeting if you're interested. So please welcome Mark Johnson.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, Jackie, for that great introduction. And can you guys hear me okay?
Yes.
And can you see the screen okay? I think so.
Can you turn up?
You can't
So,
hear.
Can.
in
Can you
particular.
get a little closer to your mouth?
Oh, okay. There. Why don't I do that?
There you go.
So, is that a little better?
Yes.
Okay, so first of all, I want to thank the Rotary Club of Toronto Eglinton for this great opportunity, and in particular Jackie for inviting me here. And I'll spend, I don't know, about 15 minutes talking to you about the importance of, I think, what we're doing. But I don't want to spend too much time and get in the way of your gin and tonics later this afternoon. And, you know, I don't think Sir John A. Macdonald would want me to get in the way of your gin and tonics this afternoon either. I know that the Rotary Club here and elsewhere does important work that improves people's lives. In fact, we were talking about the community projects, the scholarships, the international projects. And so please keep doing what you're doing, and please keep going strong and sacrificing your personal time, getting out there in the evenings and the weekends. It is very, very important that clubs like yours keep going and you keep doing that work. So congratulations and thank you to you for doing that. So in that spirit of community service, I'm doing what I can to serve the community. So let me tell you what I'm doing, why, and why you should care. So the title of my speech today, if I got this right, there we go, is a famous quote from the Austrian composer Gustav Mahler. Tradition is not the worship of ashes, but the preservation of fire. That fire of which I speak is our long Canadian history, the heritage that invisibly binds us together as Canadians. And in particular, I speak of the heritage passed down to us by our nation's founder, the great Sir John A. Macdonald. I never thought that as a Canadian and a former candidate for Parliament that I would feel compelled to stand up and defend Sir John A. Macdonald, our first Prime Minister and one of our greatest political leaders. But such are the times that we live in. As you know, across Canada in recent years, several statues of Macdonald have been taken down by governments or vandalized and toppled by mobs because of his alleged role in the creation or expansion of residential schools in the 1800s. His name has also been removed from some schools and from some major parkways. And let me show you a few photos here. We've got there, that is Charlottetown in the top left, Montreal along the right, and that's the head of him there, the Montreal statue. We've got the Kingston Park there on the left, Hamilton there on the right. And so it has been Victoria, Regina, Montreal, Kingston, Picton, Wilmot Township, Hamilton, Charlottetown, and Toronto. And sadly, this unfortunate phenomenon of destroying statues of past leaders is not only a Canadian one. Britain has also suffered through this with statues of Churchill and Queen Victoria vandalized. And in the US, statues of Washington and Jefferson have been vandalized. And in the neighborhood where I grew up and sought to represent in Parliament, there's a high school named after Macdonald, Sir John A. Macdonald Collegiate Institute. I didn't go there, I went to Agincourt Collegiate Institute. But it's there, and over the decades, tens of thousands of teenagers have gone to school there, and it has played an important part in the Scarborough community. Kids should be proud to attend a school so named. It's named for a leader of whom we should be proud, and who led the founding of a nation with much to be proud of. Yet earlier this spring, the Toronto District School Board announced plans to erase the name of Macdonald, along with the names of Dundas and Ryerson from 3 schools. So this finally spurred me to action. It's finally had enough, and I've got to get involved. And so working with others, I created Save Our History, as Jackie told you, as a nonpartisan grassroots advocacy group with the explicit mission of stopping the TDSB from deleting those names. And we're nonpartisan because I firmly believe that this issue runs across the political spectrum. And so we successfully persuaded the Ontario government to step in and ban all school boards from across Ontario from changing school names. Fortunately, about a dozen schools in Ontario will remain named after Macdonald. The Dundas and Ryerson schools will remain named after them. There's about 2 or 3 others outside of Toronto that are named after Dundas. I believe 2 schools have already been changed, one in Markham and one in Vaughan. Macdonald's name has been erased from them, and I think it's too late for them. So fresh off that school name success, Save Our History is now campaigning to have the statues of MacDonald reinstalled. And so it's not all bad news, okay? Oh, here, I forgot you, here are some more statues of MacDonald that have been removed. Top left is Regina, right is Picton, bottom left is Charlottetown, they're all gone. This is the vandalization that's representing the blood there, the red paint. And then this one here in the center, with Wilmot Township, right outside of Kitchener. But it's not all bad news, okay? We've persuaded, as I said, the Ontario government to keep the names of Sir John A. Macdonald Collegiate, okay, installed, there, okay. And last week, let me go back a bit here, this accidentally, there we go. Last week, we were successful with the cooperation of others, including the Canadian Institute of Historical Education, and they're a great group, by the way, so take a look at them online, in persuading the township of Wilmot, just outside Kitchener, to reinstall their statue of MacDonald. There it is on the left, and that process is now underway, and as many of you know, the statue of MacDonald at Queen's Park, that was boarded up for 5 years, has now been unboarded. That's it in the center, and it is proudly standing at the foot of Queen's Park. So that is what our new mission is. But let me clearly state one thing here, what this is not about. This is not about looking away from the harm or denying the injustice of residential schools or the long-held discrimination against Indigenous Canadians. It's not that at all. Late as we are, we must meet the urgent need to improve the quality of life of Indigenous Canadians. And I hope we can all be fully committed to that goal. I'm talking about a completely different subject. That is the correct and deserved place in Canadian history of Sir John A. Macdonald and other great leaders who have been targeted for erasure from our public spaces. The movement, in my view, to erase MacDonald, and others may have a different view, and that's fine, is an unfortunate and destructive development for our country. And it is long past time for our leaders to take a courageous stand against this immature nonsense and defend our founder. So what exactly are they afraid of? So let's talk a little bit about history. Any casual student of history will know that historical events are never fully just nor fully humane, because events are made by humans, and humans are never fully just nor fully humane. Man's inhumanity to man and the countervailing march of progress mark the major currents of world history. It's enlightenment versus the four horsemen of the apocalypse. And so for thousands of years, those two conflicting forces of history have been the forward pull of peace, wealth, enlightenment, and science, straining against the backward drag of violence, poverty, ignorance, and disease. That's the ebb and flow of history, and we all know that. So pick up any history book, and you turn to any page, and you'll probably be reading about a small battle in the larger war between light and darkness, and one can argue that the former only started to prevail in the second half of the 20th century, well within our living memory. And before then, life was, to quote the political philosopher from the Enlightenment, Thomas Hobbes, solitary, poor, nasty, brutish, and short. In other words, human misery. And so by our modern standards of establishing new countries pursuant to international law with the United Nations, international treaties, referenda, and respect for minorities, the founding of countries back then was a brutal business. Almost okay? Almost all countries have been established by similar methods. A territory must be defined, acquired, and protected. And that means conquest and war. Other cultures in that territory must be eliminated, separated, or dominated, which usually means some kind of genocide. And then a national founding myth, skewed to the heroic, must be created to unify the culture and provide social and political cohesion. And that, of course, requires the editing of the truth to avoid just how unpleasant the business actually was. And so Canada's founding followed much the same path, but by any measure was far more peaceful and balanced than any peer country. Most countries, when you look around the world, are based on race or language. That's their history. Very few share our core characteristics. A transcontinental settler society whose membership is granted not based on race or creed or language, but on common values, forward-looking ideals, and a shared commitment to a common future. And we owe much of this to the wisdom and peaceful ways of our fathers of Confederation, led by Macdonald. Macdonald and the other Canadians of that era did their best in the world of the late 1800s as it then was, with all of its knowledge, barriers, and codes. As the saying goes, the past is a foreign country. They do things differently there. They were men of their times, limited by the contemporary confines of class, religion, mores, science, and politics, yet they still pressed forward and pushed those limits. And despite being men of their times, they were very much ahead of them, and they should be judged on the entirety of their achievements. And so if not him, if not Macdonald, then who? Who else could have done a better job? Who else did do a better job? So please, name one other country whose founders carried out the task better than ours. Listen, all leaders, bequeath good and bad legacies to their heirs. And the historical evidence on Macdonald's role in residential schools and other Indigenous matters is open to criticism, but it's much more balanced than some critics are willing to believe. And our history books will forever be stained by the mistreatment of Indigenous Canadians, yet we cannot pin the accumulated failures of all governments across 200 years on one man, Macdonald. Doing so would be historically inaccurate, and worse, it would lazily excuse the many others who were equally culpable, if not more so. And so I believe it's human nature to search for a single cause of a problem, to blame one man, to look for a single act, to wipe it all clean, pull down the statues, change the school names. Well, wouldn't that be easy? So that might satisfy our desire for a simple explanation, an easy fix, a singular cause of a complex problem that still bedevils us today, but it wrongfully acquits so many others of the charge. And so who deserves our shame? The ones who established the residential schools, or the ones who kept them going after the harm so obviously manifested itself across the decades? And so the erasure of Canada's founder is not only the wrongful conviction of Sir John A. Macdonald, but I believe it's also the wrongful acquittal of his many successors, right down to Pierre Trudeau. The last residential school closed, I believe, in 1985 under Brian Mulroney. And as for other names, well, look around at your schools, okay? We'd mentioned Ryerson University. So Wilfrid Laurier, Darcy McGee, Joseph Brandt, Jackie, you'll know all of this, right? These school names. Brebeuf, Stephen Leacock, Tommy Douglas, Sam Steele, Agnes MacPhail, Norman Bethune, Oliver Mowat, Frederick Banting, Grey Owl, Henry Kelsey, William Osler, Winston Churchill, and Pope John Paul II all have schools in the Toronto area named after them. All of them are great, but all of them are imperfect. So must they too be erased? And if not, or if yes, then who's next? And this is what we're about. Erasing Sir John A. from our public spaces is nothing more than tokenism and childishness, with barely a passing glance at history that will have no meaningful impact on the very people that it professes to help. It only alienates the broad swath of Canadians whose support is needed to drive at real change. In the application of an increasingly strict, unforgiving purity test applied retroactively to great Canadians who lived and died a long time ago in a different world will inescapably lead to a nation bereft of heroes, devoid of pride, with no spirit or unifying beliefs, but filled with anger and resentment fueled by historical grievances. Grievance, bitterness, blaming others are self-destructive traits. It's a negative energy, a miasma that eventually infects and consumes the holders themselves. So despite what many may read, especially in the last year or so, we are a great country and the world is getting better. Canada is a blessed country to which many millions of immigrants have come for a better life. As you know, long before our official founding down to today, these immigrants, these folks, including my ancestors, braved perilous journeys, financial hardship, great distances from family and familiarity, and they sailed and they flew into the unknown because of their faith in Canada. And they placed their future and their children's future at the mercy of Canada. So why us? Why here? Contrary to what some pessimists may argue, Canada is, and I believe continues to be, more peaceful, more just, and more enlightened than any other country. And we owe much of this collective achievement to our political culture, our Canadian political culture, and that political culture is very much the legacy of Macdonald. Tolerance, generosity, the peaceful and pragmatic bridging of political differences, the spirit of compromise, measured responses to problems, the never-ending journey to a better country for everyone. So those were his politics and those are the values that he championed. And his style of politics, despite stuff you see down south, his style of politics, I believe, still triumphs. And his philosophy makes Canada, Canada. Canadians are proud of their history, and rightly so. And so, but we admit, look, the life of Canada is led by the decisions of its leaders. Like our own lives and those of our forebears, that remains imperfect. For our national life is just composed of nothing but the aggregate of human acts, and human acts can never be perfect, free from the errors that only time and hindsight can reveal. But as Macdonald himself said, quote, "My sins of omission and commission I do not deny, but I trust that it may be said of me in the ultimate issue, much is forgiven because he loved much, for I have loved my country with a passionate love." Different opinions are not unpatriotic or invalid. New knowledge emerges through historical study. New perspectives are shared and they should be welcomed. And there's nothing wrong with offering a fuller picture of our great historical figures. We live in a free country. Reasoned disagreement is noble and it's the mark of a mature society. And so let me conclude by saying that our world, I think, is moving to a much better place. The rule of law, respect for the dignity of all humans, the advancement of knowledge and science, and the conquest of disease. No one in this room would prefer that their children were born in 1925 over 2025. Okay, yet problems and failures still persist that we all need to work on. And to quote MacDonald again, "We are a great country and shall become one of the greatest in the universe if we preserve it. We shall sink into insignificance and adversity if we suffer it to be broken." And so I say, if we ditch the man whose principles got us this far, then God help us. Vandalizing statues is easy. Erasing names is easy. Improving lives is hard. Changing the future is hard. MacDonald knew this, and he dedicated his life to the hard work of building Canada. And Rotarians know this. It's why your club exists. It's why you get out there. It's why you volunteer. It's hard work, but you know it's important. And so preserving the political tradition of MacDonald is the that he gave us, that challenge. Preserving that political tradition is the challenge that we face. And preserving that fire for future generations is the right thing to do. And preserving his memory is the right thing to do. And preserving his presence is the right thing to do. So thank you very much for your time and your attention.
Time for a few questions.
I'll let you get on to your gin and tonics.
First of all, Mark, we take a couple questions.
Yeah, sure, absolutely. Go ahead.
Is there anything can be done to change the name of Dundas Square back to Dundas Square from the ridiculous name that it's been given, which I can't even remember?
Yeah, Sankofa Square. So other than a public lobbying campaign, which is what politicians respond to, I think that's what would do it. A lot of people bring that question to me. That's not my organization's focus. We're going to focus on the statues, but it's pretty easy to guess how I feel about that. In addition to the waste of money, and those are legitimate arguments, the cost, the upheaval, the attention that requires of politicians. You should be focusing on these other problems, not a made-up problem over here. Dundas was an abolitionist who represented a runaway slave. And then he got maligned recently because of his role in amending a motion to abolish slavery. But he was a very prominent abolitionist in Great Britain long before it was trending. But they didn't focus on that. But that's not what those militants do. But to your point, it is just lobbying and lobbying and lobbying, and eventually, hopefully, you'll get a supportive politician. And they're also changing the name of Dundas Station too. That's in the works. They want to call that TMU Station now, and they're saying, well, because it identifies the university, it's good for the students. But they also mention the cleansing nature of it. That's still an inchoate decision, and there may be an opportunity to stop that before it proceeds. Yeah.
First, I'll start off by saying thank you. I get scared when I hear people talk like this. We've had a speaker come, and we don't teach history before the First World War. So most Canadians don't know about Métis, and most Canadians don't know about MacDonald and what Cartier and what they all did to get our country where we are. I think it's so important because people have to have a pride in who we are, and they have to have a reason for it. And yet we're not taking the time, so we're stopping something, but we're not building anything. We're not helping our kids understand what went on before the First World War. What can we do?
There, you should take a look at the website of the Canadian Institute of Historical Education. So there's some overlap between what my outfit does and theirs, but they're the ones who are, and I sit on their advisory committee, they're stocked up with historians. One of their efforts is to help the various ministries of education with exactly what you're saying with curricula. You know, and they've got some teachers in there that are involved. There's only, and the problem that they've got, and I'm sure there's some educators here, is there's only so many subjects you can teach. You've only got so many classroom hours. And so it's a question of prioritizing it. I think, to your point, high school history is World War I and up. I think grades 6, 7, and 8 is pre-World War I. But Canadian Institute of Historical Education, CIHE, you can get involved that way. They're doing their best on that. Yeah, hi. Okay.
You're speaking today to a group of a particular, by and large, of a particular demographic. Maclean's magazine had an article, a featured article, a couple of weeks ago, on the fact that youth are becoming more conservative in their values. I'm wondering, who do you see supporting your initiative? Do you have by and large, all generations, ages represented, or is it primarily one particular demographic?
I don't know, because all I've got is email names and email addresses, and I don't. There's no, like, the organization. It's me. You know, I started this up. I got angry enough to just start this up, and I knew a little bit about setting up websites, and I had some previous mailing lists from, you know, my political side of things, and I had some contacts with reporters and all of that, and then I just blasted out some emails and got a bunch of people signed up. The effort was focused on lobbying provincial politicians and their staffers to stop the TDSB. Now that we've been successful in that, we did a poll of my members and was saying, look, we got to try to get the statues back up. I don't have that data on my membership. I would suspect it probably skews to the older, but I don't know. But you know, as long as the politicians get an angry email, you know, that's good enough, right? Because they will respond to that. Politicians don't like mess. Leaders don't like mess, and they don't like piles of you-know-what on their desks. So you create that, and they will react, and that was the strategy, right?
It might be helpful to incorporate into your presentation some information or some opinions from the people who are lobbying hard to get rid of these statues.
Yeah.
To talk about why they want it and what it means to them, and what it means to them when they walk into a school, when they send their children to the school day after day after day, and here is a figure that represents action to wipe out that segment of our world.
No, I can incorporate
so
that.
it you know, I was listening to hear some of that balance, which would make the message a little bit more palatable.
I can do that, so thank you for that.
Just a suggestion.
What troubles me is that the narrative that has gotten out there in the last 5 or 6 years was all one-sided. And actually, there wasn't a lot of historical analysis about it. It was politically driven, and that's fine. That's politics.
Which side?
The negative side. The side to take it all down.
Okay.
And then when the historians actually started to sift through it all and look at it, there's some bad stuff there. Absolutely there is. There's some bad stuff there. But there's a lot of good stuff too. And the people from me on my side are saying, we're not going to deny the bad stuff. We're not going to deny that all happened. It's the fuller picture. But if you're going to offer a full picture, it has to be a full picture, not just the bad stuff and say the statues come down. Put some more education out there. Statues are a great opportunity to educate people, and that's what we're advocating. Have it as an opportunity now to educate folks about the whole record. And you can do it now with people's phones and QR codes. If you've been to a museum or an art gallery in recent years, and you go up to the painting or the exhibit, you click on your phone, and it's all there. I don't like that as a museum goer. It's a bit clunky, but that's the way it is. So by all means, offer the fuller picture, including the negative, but don't have just the negative on that. And that's kind of what has troubled a lot of us. We're willing to have a real conversation about it. But
Last
have a full
question,
one.
Stephen Stein.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Jim Moore, you can start making your way up to thank our speaker, but go ahead, Stephen.
Walk slowly. First of all, I apologize for not being from North.
Yeah. Me too, by the way.
But the thing that bothers me, I agree with what you're doing, but what bothers me is you shouldn't have to do this. If you go past a statue in a park and there's Sir John A. Macdonald and there's 3 homeless people lying below it, it's not Sir John A. Macdonald that's offensive. And so
That's right.
we need to put you out of business because we need to stop wasting our time on this stuff.
Yeah, no, I think that's quite right. And that was the, where are your priorities, folks? When we've got these more pressing problems here and you're doing all of this and you're spending money on it. Changing the names of the schools was going to be into the 6 figures. And they're doing that, and you think, well, $100,000, that's not that much. But what the ministry was hearing, and this is what I heard, was that teachers were complaining, saying, look, I'm spending $500 or $1,000 out of my pocket for classroom supplies for the school. And meanwhile, the school is going to be spending $40,000 or $50,000 on signage. Meanwhile, we don't have pads, paper, we don't have pens, we don't have the proper books. So where are the priorities on that? So, to your point, that's one of the issues as well. Yeah.
Jim Moore, thank our speaker on our behalf.
Well, Mark, on behalf of Rotary Toronto Eglinton, I would like to thank you for bringing us an interesting perspective, for reminding us of our history, and for giving a broader picture of what is going on in terms of some of these renaming initiatives. In a time when the president of the country to the south of us is trying to bully us into being the 51st state, it's great that you and other people like you are doing these kinds of things to remind us of our history. Thank you.
Thank you very much. That's great. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, everyone.
Yeah, we'll be proceeding with our regular meeting.
regular
I
meeting?
understand you're welcome to stay, but
No, that's okay. Like I said, I don't want to get in the way of your gin and tonics. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, what have I missed? When
thank
is
you.
the gin and tonic?
Dylan, I said I'd give you a couple minutes. Do you want to tell us right now what you're up to?
Good afternoon.
Yeah, take it out. Take it out. Just hold it. You can hold it. Hold it tight.
Close to your mouth. Good afternoon again. Thank you all again for having me. Some of you might remember I was able to join a Zoom meeting a few months ago, but it's much nicer to be here in person and meet some of you and to say thank you again. As Lars mentioned, I'm the very grateful recipient of the Global Grant Scholarship from the district. For the last couple of years, I've been working for a charity based in Geneva, Switzerland, working on infectious diseases. So similar to the role that Rotary plays in eradicating polio worldwide, I've been working at the Global Fund, an organization trying to eradicate malaria, tuberculosis, and HIV. So I spent the last several years working on programs in East Africa and West Africa to try and fight those diseases. And one thing I've learned in that time is that in order to have any sustained progress against those diseases, we need to really have strong government institutions and capacity to sustain the fight against those diseases. So we don't have to rely on international donors indefinitely.
That's right.
So I'll be going to Oxford University in the fall to study public policy in the hopes of trying to work with governments in developing regions to build their capacity and sustainability for health and development programs. So once again, thank you all very much for having me. It's been great to get to meet some of you and learn a little bit more about the Toronto Eglinton Club. While I'm at Oxford, I'll be joining some meetings and getting to know the folks at some of the Oxford region Rotary clubs. So I look forward to getting involved with them as well and trying to be a good ambassador for the Toronto Rotary community. So thank you very much again.
Great, well,
Ron, check the button on the. Check the button on the mic.
Oh, the mic, oh, we turned it off?
I don't know.
So I'm going to pass the
Turned off?
microphone to Stephen, who's going to collect Happy Bucks. And while he's going around doing that, is there anyone who has a birthday? Just put
No.
a cup, glass, something.
Here. I've got it downstairs.
Next Tuesday.
Happy Bucks anyway.
Next
birthday.
It's a nod.
I got five,
So it's on.
but it's more of a
February.
rant.
What's that?
You want anyone
You
to
can-
have a
That's
birthday?
gonna be 10.
I have one in February.
Oh, February, you
It's gotta be 10 for a rant.
I'm in March,
All right, I just wanna say, Lars does a great job.
Give him the microphone, please.
Lars does a great job helping us get bingo. This club would not be this club if we didn't have the bingo money. It allows many of our committees to spend money to do good works for other people. And I really think we should really try to get involved. If you can spend one afternoon at the bingo hall, come out and sign up and do your little diligence and help us get this money. Because it's very important to everything else that we try to do. And Lars, on my behalf, I thank you for all you've done.
Lars.
Yes.
Okay, thank you, Tom. I'm going to put down $5 on your behalf. Paid advertising, because there is still opportunity to take the online course for or training for bingo. Let me know and I'll send you the link. I actually originally, I guess I can put in another 5 because that was. I was going to the Happy Bucks is the fact that Walter, I think, found 1 or 2 extra banners. This is one of the last, so I don't know if you want to auction off the other one. But this is for Dylan to present to the club in Oxford. And with a little bit of luck, we will have new ones back.
If you can get it on their vote for the race.
Perfect.
The Oxford Cambridge race.
Yeah.
Very good.
Any more for any more? Okay, that's it. Thank you.
Floor is yours.
All right. Okay, thank you.
Jackie?
I guess I've got everything, everything's pretty much done, so, are there any questions? Does anybody, everyone knows that next week, we have a Zoom-only meeting in the evening. Everyone knows that. So, we're trying a new agenda. We approved it, about a month and a half ago, and, it's still up and running. We're trying different things. Today, we, recorded our meeting with a little device here, so we will be putting it on YouTube. So we've had some complaints and some concerns with the fact that we're not doing the Zoom on all our meetings, the hybrid meetings. So we're trying to accommodate pretty much everybody's needs, and we're trying to get all the information, make it available to pretty much everybody. So there's a lot of things in progress that we're working on, and there's many changes that are coming. And we're coming out of our post-COVID era, and so now we have to rethink who we are and how we're going to run this club. Okay, any questions? Okay, I guess we can probably call the meeting to a close. Thank you for attending, and have a great week. And again, next week, next Wednesday, we've got an evening Zoom-only meeting. Okay?
And next week we're reporting back on the conference, right? The international conference, is that right?
Yes, it's on the convention.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the program. Yeah, it's part of the program. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Thank you, everybody, and have a great week.